I came across this story, and I was struck by how thoughtfully it was told. Let me share it with you, because this is the kind of narrative that deserves to be heard. This begins with an email. A woman we'll call Louise reaches out to someone she barely knows, her husband's coworker's wife. She's not reaching out for small talk. She's reaching out because she's discovered something that's shattered her understanding of her marriage, and she needs someone else to know the truth. The recipient of that email is 26 years old. She works at a daycare. She and her husband have recently purchased their first home together. By all accounts, her life is moving forward in the expected direction. And then she opens her inbox. Louise's email contains screenshots, conversations between Louise's husband Edward and this woman's husband, conversations about Louise and Edward's son, who recently came out as gay. In these messages, Edward reveals what he's been hiding from his wife. While Louise has been supportive of their son, Edward has been pretending to be supportive while secretly consulting with his coworker, this woman's husband, about how to, quote, fix him. Notice how the tension shifts here. This isn't just about Edward's deception. It's about what the coworker has been saying in response. The messages show her husband offering comfort to Edward. More than comfort, actually. He's been offering advice. Tactical advice on how to approach the situation without Louise knowing. They discuss meeting outside of work, over dinner, to strategize further. And in one of these messages, her husband writes something that changes everything. He says if it were his son, he'd, quote, set him straight. He suggests taking away privileges, benching him from sports, punishment designed to force the child to, quote, change his mind. The woman reading these messages realizes she doesn't know her husband at all. She calls Louise. She apologizes, though she has nothing to apologize for. She tries to offer comfort to a stranger who's dealing with her own husband's betrayal while also trying to protect her son. Louise tells her she hasn't confronted Edward yet, that she's considering having the conversation with one of her parents present because she doesn't think she can face him alone. This is the moment where we understand the full weight of what's happening. Louise isn't just hurt by her husband's dishonesty. She's frightened of what he might do. And now this woman is sitting on knowledge that's eating her alive. She knows what her husband believes. She knows what he's been planning. But she can't confront him yet because doing so might put Louise and her son in danger. The narrator is building something here, something we'll understand later. She writes that outside of her, quote, selfish ambitions, she wants to prioritize Louise's safety and her son's well-being above everything else. Notice that framing. She calls her own desire to confront her husband about his homophobia, selfish ambitions, as if her devastation is somehow secondary to the larger crisis. But her devastation is real. She writes that she's considering divorce, that she doesn't want to have children with someone who thinks like this. She didn't know this about him before yesterday. This belief system he's been carrying, these strategies he's been developing, none of it surfaced until he thought he was in safe company with Edward. This detail matters more than you might think. Her husband didn't reveal these views during an argument or a moment of stress. He revealed them while offering counsel to a colleague. This was him being helpful. This was him in mentor mode, sharing what he would do if faced with the same, quote, problem. The story presents us with two women connected by their husband's workplace friendship, both discovering that the men they married have been living double lives. Louise, who thought her husband supported their son, and this woman, who thought she knew her husband's values well enough to build a future with him. Both of them are now navigating how to extract themselves from situations that have become unsafe, though in different ways. Louise is planning how to confront her husband with backup present. The narrator is waiting, holding her own truth, because she understands that her timeline is not the priority here. And the son at the center of all this? He came out to his parents. He was vulnerable with them. And while his mother responded with love, his father has been secretly consulting with a coworker about punishment strategies designed to break him back into hiding. The beauty of this narrative is how it sits with us afterward, making us reconsider what we thought we knew. The narrator asks for advice on how to support Louise while also dealing with her own crisis. She's trying to hold space for someone else's trauma while processing her own. She's trying to be patient when every instinct is screaming at her to confront her husband immediately. This is the craft of real human experience, the way multiple crises can exist simultaneously, the way we're forced to prioritize other people's safety even when we're drowning, the way discovery can unravel everything we thought was solid. The messages between these two men weren't just philosophical discussions. They were planning sessions, taking away sports, removing privileges, meeting without the wives knowing. Strategic isolation of a child from the one parent who's actually protecting him. And in this moment, you can feel the weight of what's unsaid. The narrator doesn't elaborate on what other advice might have been shared. She doesn't speculate about what might have happened at that dinner they were planning. But the implications hang there, heavy and unavoidable. The story ends with her still waiting, still sitting on this knowledge, still putting Louise's needs ahead of her own timeline. She asks what she should do, when she should act, how she can support someone she barely knows through a crisis that's also destroying her own marriage. There's a pattern emerging that shapes everything that follows. When people reveal who they are in private conversations, when they drop the performance they maintain for their partners, that's when you see what they actually believe. Her husband didn't slip up. He didn't have a bad day. He was being authentic with someone he thought shared his views. And that authenticity has cost him his marriage, though he doesn't know it yet. It's cost Edward his wife's trust and possibly his relationship with his son. All of this damage, radiating out from private messages between two men who thought they were safely hidden. The narrator writes that this is about Louise's safety and her son's safety, quote, first and foremost. She's already made her decision about her marriage. She's already processed that her future looks different now than it did before that email arrived. But she's waiting because someone else's child is in danger and her grief can wait. Stories like this remind us why we tell them in the first place, because they honor the complexity of being human, the way we're forced to make impossible choices, the way discovery changes everything, the way we can be married to someone and still not know them at all. This is the kind of story that stays with you. Not because it has a satisfying resolution, but because it captures a moment where everything fractures, where the ground shifts, where two women realize simultaneously that they've been building their lives on foundations that were never solid to begin with. And somewhere in the middle of all this, there's a young person who came out to his parents, hoping for acceptance, unaware that his vulnerability has triggered a crisis that extends far beyond his own household. His honesty has revealed fault lines he didn't know existed. His courage has accidentally exposed his father's true nature to his mother, and his father's coworker's true nature to that man's wife. The story unfolds further into territories we don't get to see, the confrontations that haven't happened yet, the conversations still waiting, the decisions that will reshape multiple families. But what we do see is enough. The moment of discovery, the weight of knowledge, the impossible position of having to wait when every instinct screams to act. And that's how a story transforms understanding, by showing us something we didn't expect to see, by revealing that private conversations have public consequences, by demonstrating that sometimes the person sleeping next to you is a stranger, and sometimes a stranger's email can save you from a future you never saw coming. If this story made you think, if it reminded you that people can surprise us in devastating ways, do me a favor, subscribe to this channel so you don't miss the next one. Drop a comment about how you'd handle this situation, or just to process what you're feeling. And share this with someone who appreciates stories that respect the weight of real human complexity. Because some narratives deserve to be heard exactly as they were told. Without simplification, without easy answers, just the truth of what happened when everything changed in the time it takes to read an email. Title suggestions primary. He was giving advice on how to fix a gay son. His wife found the messages alt 1. She found messages between her husband and his coworker about conversion tactics alt 2. The email that revealed what two husbands really believed about a gay son Alt-3. His private messages about setting his son straight destroyed two marriages.